Life changed forever for Evelyn Kandahali and her family one day last November. Rebels belonging to a group known as the Allied Democratic Forces stormed her community. Her brother was among those killed.
We had shouting and a commotion in the night, so we fled into the bush and only came back in the early morning. That's when we saw people had been killed. We lost several family members and friends. As a community, we are very upset about what's happening here. It's a sad situation. We do what we can to get by and eat, but when we go to sleep in the town, criminals come and loot our businesses. The insecurity and memories of what happened are causing us to be unwell.
The ADF is a Ugandan group, a coalition of Islamist fighters who frequently recruit at home and come here to Beni to kill. A recent report by Human Rights Watch says 325 people have been killed in Beni since October. The killers often use machetes. Children are among the chief victims. The ADF has also ambushed and killed UN peacekeepers. Just last week attacked a military base, killing 5 Congolese. The army is fighting back in a publicised offensive, but Uganda says that offensive needs to be more determined. People here in Beni agree.
Military operations should be presided or accompanied by solid intelligence, so we can understand where exactly terrorists are hiding out and operating from. Then it becomes easy to neutralize them.
The Congolese army says it has made gains against ADF, retaking several villages and capturing dozens of fighters and terror suspects. But many here in Beni still live with the fear that the rebels will return.
We do hold out hope our army will succeed, but we're also concerned that they're not carrying out their job well because they're not paid enough.
There is no peace or security here in Congo. We don't know why there are so many killings going on. We can't work like this.
People are hoping the troops can protect them, but every day they fear the rebels will sweep in from the surrounding forest to claim more victims. Clementine Logan, CCTV, Beni in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And Clementine Logan is now joining me from Goma in the DRC. Clementine, why is that particular town, Beni, which you mentioned, is constantly targeted? Why is it targeted?
Well, Beatrice, Beni is a strategic town for the ADF because it's a trading point in northeastern DRC and also because it's close to the border with Uganda, which is where the group originates from. But it's also important to remember that the surrounding area is covered in very vast and dense forest. This is difficult for the Congolese troops and UN peacekeepers to navigate, but for the rebels who've been operating there since the 1990s and who are very familiar with it, it's easy for them to remain very mobile and to sweep in from the forest, as you heard in that report there, and stage quite complex surprise attacks on the surrounding villages. So this also makes it an attractive target for the group. We also understand that some of the rebels can melt into the local population. Some of them, we've been told, even have families in the surrounding villages. And so this does make it a difficult group to sort of isolate and target. But because Beni and the surrounding area is so strategic for the group, we're likely to see efforts to gain territory around Beni town itself, also perhaps within the town, continue. And this is what the Congolese army and the UN peacekeeping forces, MONUSCO, are trying to prevent.
Well, Clementine, so what more, though, do we know about the ADF? What are their numbers? Who is fighting for them? Who are they?
Well, some estimates put the number of fighters within its ranks at as much as 1,500. But at this stage, it's quite difficult to come by a very specific number. However, what military officials do know is that there are many foreign fighters within the group. This is a coalition of Islamist militant groups. And the head of MONUSCO told us while we were in Beni that they estimate about 40% of them are Congolese nationals and 60% come from neighboring countries, chief among them, of course, being being Uganda. Now, at this stage, there's no strong evidence to suggest that the group is working alongside any other Islamist extremist movements within Africa or even beyond. But the fear certainly is that if the group is allowed to gain more territory, then they have the potential to destabilize Central Africa. And so the aim right now is to strengthen intelligence, be able to locate their exact whereabouts, target the group, and then, of course, neutralize the ADF completely.
Well, Clementine, though, previously against the M23 rebels, MONUSCO had deployed particularly aggressive tactics through its so-called intervention brigade. What sort of force, though, is the UN using against the ADF?
Well, we were in Beni for a few days and we joined the UN peacekeeping force MONUSCO on a patrol as they visited several of the villages, some of which had been attacked as many as 6 times by the ADF rebels. As you saw in that report, it has a devastating consequence for the communities there. But their mandate currently is really to support the Congolese army in its offensive against ADF. It's there to back them up. The Congolese army is taking the lead here completely. They're on the front lines. They've told us that they've retaken some villages from ADF control and they've managed to capture dozens of fighters and terror suspects. So the aim for MONUSCO here is to really protect civilians from the types of brutal and indiscriminate attacks that we've been seeing since October last year. Their focus is to establish a military presence in Beni town itself, of course. They have a big base, but also in the more vulnerable parts of the surrounding areas. These are very isolated places and easy, as I said before, for the rebels to come in from the forest and stage surprise attacks. So while we were with them, we saw that they were sort of analysing the presence of their military bases and also found 1 or 2 places where they might be setting up a new base in order to keep that military presence and protect civilians from any further attacks. Back to you.
All right, Clementine Logan for us there in Goma in the DR Congo.